just attraction, not even close. This person is crazily in love with you now. And I feel like for many of you, this did not begin in a way that looked dramatic on the outside. It may have started with interest, curiosity, chemistry, maybe even a quiet pull, but it has grown into something so much deeper. So let us first take a look at the overall energy between you and this person right now. We have the lovers, the moon, and here is deep feelings. Wow. And here is surrender wanting to something so much deeper as well. So yes, this already tells me that what is happening here is way beyond surface level. I feel like this person's feelings have crossed a line where they can no longer honestly call this a crush or just say this is attraction, because attraction can come and go, attraction can stay on the surface. Attraction does not always change the way someone thinks or the way they carry you in their energy, but I feel like this has changed them in some very real ways. I feel like they think about you differently now. I feel like they feel your absence differently now. And I feel like even the way they imagine their future may be shifting because of what they feel for you. Here is trust. The situation is calling for you to have faith. So if some of you have been doubting whether this person is really that deep in their feelings, I do feel like this is saying yes, they are, even if they do not show it fully yet. And for many of you, the reason they are not showing it fully yet is because they are still trying to understand just how much this has grown, because I do not feel like they expected themselves to fall this hard. Here is the moon. Yes, there is a lot hidden here. This person is keeping so much of this beneath the surface, and I feel like it is because the truth of it feels intense even to them. For many of you, this is someone who likes to feel composed or likes to understand what they are doing or likes to move carefully, but the feelings they have for you are not neat and controlled anymore. Here is magnetic pull, and here is loyal heart. Wow, so this is not only passion, this is not only desire. I feel like there is devotion starting to live in this person's heart now. I feel like they are not only drawn to you physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. There is something about you that keeps calling them back, and it is not something they can easily brush off anymore. For some of you, this person may have started out thinking they just wanted to get to know you, or they just liked being around you, or they just found you attractive. But I feel like now they know it has become much more than that. Because now I feel like your energy stays with them. Now I feel like your words carry weight with them. Now I feel like your presence means something much more lasting to them than they were prepared for. Here's the Ace of Cups. Wow. Yes. So love is here, and I am not saying that lightly. This feels like real emotional overflow. I feel like this person has gotten to a point where they cannot stop the feelings from growing, even if they have tried to slow themselves down or tried to rationalize things or tried to keep it simple in their mind. Here is obsession, and here is silence. So this is where things get confusing, because for many of you, the amount they feel does not match the amount they say. And that can make you wonder if you are imagining this or if the bond is really what you think it is. But I feel like the silence is not empty. I feel like the silence is packed with unspoken emotion, with watching, with longing, with overthinking. Here is the Knight of Pentacles. So yes, this person is still slow. They are still cautious. They may still be taking their time with expression, but slow does not mean shallow. And I feel like that is a very important message here, because what they feel is not shallow at all. If anything, the depth of the feeling is exactly what is making them move more carefully. Here is retreat, time alone, or nature will help you recharge. So for some of you, there has been distance here, or pauses here, or moments where things felt quieter than they should have. But I feel like that distance has only made the emotions louder inside of this person, because when someone is not physically around you and yet they still stay with you constantly, that is when you know this has gone deeper. Here is the Devil and then the Two of Cups. Wow, okay? So I feel like this person may be fighting what they feel at times, or trying to control it, or trying to keep themselves from becoming too emotionally exposed. But underneath that, there is real love, real attachment, and real partnership energy growing here. And I feel like that truth is getting harder and harder for them to hide from themselves now. And this feels very serious. Okay, so let us take a look at where you are in this connection, because I feel like your energy here is very deep, very intuitive, and very affected by the shift that has happened between you and this person. We have the High Priestess, the Queen of Cups, and here is intuition. Yes, I feel like many of you already know this is not just physical for them because you have been feeling the depth of this bond for quite a while now. And for some of you, that has actually made this harder because when you can feel that someone loves you or is falling in love with you, but they are not fully speaking or acting on it yet, it can leave you carrying a lot emotionally. Here is mirror. Wow. So, yes, there is mirroring here. This person is trying to understand their feelings, and I feel like you have been trying to understand the connection as well, but from a more heart-centered place. I feel like your side of this has been full of patience and also full of longing. Maybe you sensed very early that this was not just chemistry, and because of that, you gave it more room, more grace, and more understanding than you normally would. Here is the Seven of Pentacles. Yes, you have invested a lot in this, maybe in visible ways, maybe in invisible ways, maybe just through the amount of emotional space you have held for this bond and for what it could become. And I feel like there have been moments where you wondered if you were giving too much time, too much energy, or too much belief to something that was moving too slowly. But I do not feel like your intuition was wrong. I feel like what has been difficult is that the connection is real, but the timing and the expression have not always flowed smoothly. Here is the Two of Swords. So, yes, there has been confusion here. There has been that suspended feeling where you know something meaningful is present, but the outer reality has not fully matched the inner truth you can feel. And I think that has left many of you feeling torn between trusting your intuition and trying to protect your heart from waiting too long or hoping too much or staying in uncertainty. Here is self-worth, and I really like this card for you because despite all of the emotion here, I feel like you are learning a lot about your own value through this connection. You are learning that being loving is not the same as abandoning yourself. You are learning that being patient is not the same as accepting confusion forever. And you are learning that a real bond should still be able to meet you with honesty. Here is the Six of Pentacles. Yes, many of you have been very giving toward this person. You have been kind, understanding, compassionate, and willing to see beyond the surface of their behavior. And I feel like you have often sensed that there was more in them than what they were showing. But even if that was true, I also feel that the imbalance has been painful for you because you deserve clear energy in return. Here is the Queen of Swords. So I do feel a boundary growing in you now. And I actually think this is healthy. It does not mean the feelings are gone. It means you are becoming more honest with yourself about what you need and about the fact that you cannot keep being the only one holding the emotional truth of the connection out in the open. Here is the Four of Pentacles. Yes, you are holding back more now. I feel like your energy has become less available in some way, or at least less openly poured toward this situation. And I feel like this shift in you is one reason this person's feelings are getting even stronger, because now they can feel that they do not have full access to your warmth in the same way anymore. Here is the Star. Wow, despite everything, I still feel something very pure in your energy. You may be hurt, confused, tired, and maybe guarded, yes, but there is still light in you. There is still softness in you. And I feel like Spirit is asking you to keep pouring that softness back into yourself now, because you are not meant to lose yourself inside of someone else's emotional process. Here is warmth. I miss you and your warmth. Yes, I really do feel like this is something they would say to you. They miss the way your energy made them feel safe, seen, and emotionally held. And I feel like because they know now that the connection means more to them than they first admitted, they are also feeling the difference when your openness is not being freely offered in the same way. Here is the Nine of Cups. So I feel like deep down you did see real happiness here, and maybe you still do. You may have imagined what this connection could become if both people were equally present in it. And that is part of why this has been so emotional for you. It is not only about missing them, it is also about feeling the potential of something beautiful and not always seeing it fully realized yet. But I feel like Spirit keeps wanting to bring you back to your center for you. Okay, so let us go straight into this person's energy, because I feel like so much of what is happening here lives under the surface with them. And that is why the reading feels this intense. We have the King of Cups, the Moon, and the Eight of Swords. Wow, yes, this person has real feelings, serious feelings, but they are not moving through those feelings in a simple or relaxed way at all. I feel like this is someone who can feel deeply but still struggle to express what they feel when it starts becoming very important. And with you, I do not feel like their emotions stayed light for long. For many of you, I feel like this person tried to keep it simple at first. Maybe they told themselves it was attraction or a phase or just excitement, but I feel like their heart moved far beyond that point. Here is deep love and here is disbelief. Yes, I feel like part of what happened here is that the feelings grew so naturally that it actually startled them. You may have felt comforting, beautiful, magnetic, soothing, inspiring, or just emotionally right to them in a way that made them question how something could feel this good and this meaningful at the same time. And when someone is used to inconsistency, heartbreak, or emotional distance, a bond that feels healthy can still scare them. Sometimes it scares them more because now there is actually something valuable to lose. Here is the Six of Cups. Wow. So, yes, they carry you in their heart. They return to your energy. They return to memories. They return to the way they felt around you. And they do this much more often than you know. Here is the Hermit. So I feel like much of this person's processing has happened privately. They think alone. They feel alone. They replay things alone. And for some of you, they may have presented themselves as focused on life, work, responsibilities, or bigger goals, while quietly carrying this whole emotional world inside of them the entire time. Here is Go Slow. Take time to get to know each other. I feel like this card speaks so clearly to their pace. This person slows down when something begins to matter too much. Not because they do not care, but because they care enough to become afraid of making the wrong move, saying the wrong thing, or opening a door they are not sure they know how to walk through. Here is the Two of Pentacles. Yes, I feel like they keep trying to balance their emotions for you with everything else they have going on, but it does not stay tidy. Your energy keeps entering their day, their focus, their plans, and the quiet moments where they are trying to stay detached. And that is why I feel like the feelings have become impossible to fully deny. Here is the Knight of Pentacles. Yes, this person is still moving slowly, and I feel like for many of you that has been one of the hardest parts to deal with. Because when someone feels this deeply, you would think it should automatically mean forward motion. But I feel like with this person, the depth actually made them more careful, more guarded, and more hesitant. Here is the Page of Cups. So there is tenderness here. There is sweetness here. There is actual emotional sincerity here. And I feel like many times this person has wanted to reach toward you in a softer way. Maybe with a message, maybe with a small opening, maybe with a kind gesture, maybe with a confession that is not too overwhelming. But then their mind gets involved and the overthinking starts taking over again. Here is fear. And here is the Fool. Exactly. This is fear of taking the leap, fear of stepping into something that now matters too much. Because if they fully admit to themselves that they are in love with you, then they have to face what that means. And they also have to face the risk of vulnerability, rejection, and genuine emotional exposure. Here is the World. So, yes, for some of you, this person is very focused on work, purpose, ambitions, or the life they are building. And I do feel they use those areas to stay busy. But I also feel like no matter how much they focus on those things, it does not erase what they feel for you. If anything, it sometimes just gives them another place to hide while the love keeps growing quietly. Here is the Two of Swords. So, yes, there is still a stalemate here in some ways. They are stuck between what they feel and what they are prepared to do. But please know, this is not someone who feels a little and hesitates a little. This is someone who feels a lot, loves a lot, and then becomes overwhelmed by the size of what is happening inside them. So this person's energy feels like love, fear, attachment, hesitation, private longing, and a deep inner awareness that this connection has become one of the most emotionally important things in their life right now. Okay, let us keep going because I want to see what this person would actually say to you if they could stop filtering everything and just speak from the deepest truth in their heart. Okay, so let us look at what this person would actually say to you if they could quiet all the noise in their mind for a moment and just speak directly from the truth of what they feel. We have the Ace of Swords, the throat chakra, and here is honesty. Wow, so yes, there is a lot here that wants to be said, and I feel like it has been building for a while now. For many of you, the first thing they would say is that they cannot keep pretending this is light anymore. They cannot keep pretending this is simple anymore. I feel like they would say that they tried to call this attraction. They tried to stay casual. They tried to keep things measured in their mind. But the truth is that their feelings crossed into love. Here is confession, and here is I miss you. Yes, very directly. I feel like they miss your presence, your warmth, your attention, your energy, and the way they feel when they are connected to you. And I feel like they miss the emotional atmosphere around you too. There is something about your energy that made them feel both comforted and alive, and that is not something they have forgotten. Here is the Nine of Swords. So, yes, I feel like you cross their mind at night or in the quiet parts of the day or whenever they stop distracting themselves and actually have to sit with their own heart. And what comes up is not only longing, I also feel regret coming through very strongly because I think they know there were many moments where they could have said more, done more, or made things clearer. Here is I should have said more. And here is regret. Wow, yes. I feel like this person knows they held back, and I feel like one of the most painful things for them now is the awareness that they may have been loved, or at least deeply understood, by someone who was actually very good for them, and they still hesitated. Here is the Emperor, so this person may want to look controlled, steady, sensible, and not easily shaken. But if they were being completely honest, I think they would admit that you got through their defenses, you reached them, you softened them, you made them imagine more than they expected. And because of that, I feel like they would admit that they have not felt normal about you for quite some time now. Here is vulnerability. Exactly. I feel like they would say that loving you opened up a side of them that they were not sure how to handle. Because once feelings become real, then there is something to lose, then there is the possibility of being hurt, then there is the possibility of not being able to go back to emotional distance ever again. Here is the Two of Cups. Wow, yes, they absolutely feel the bond. And I feel like they would tell you that they knew this was mutual on some level, or at least they could feel that what happened between you meant something real. For many of you, I feel like they would say that you were not imagining any of it, and that the connection was not one-sided in the way it may have looked during the quieter periods. Here as I replay our moments. Yes, this keeps coming through. They revisit conversations, little details, times they felt close to you, times they almost said something bigger, and times they felt your energy very strongly, and they ask themselves what would have happened if they had trusted the feeling more, instead of trying to manage it, slow it down, or keep themselves safe from it. Here is the Hanged Man. So they are still suspended in some ways, still trying to see all of this clearly, still trying to understand themselves. But while they are in that space, the feelings are not disappearing. If anything, I feel like they are becoming more undeniable. That is why I keep getting that this is not just attraction anymore. Here is I am in love with you now. Wow. Yes. And I feel like for some of you, they may not use those exact words if they come forward, but the energy behind it is absolutely here because what they feel is no longer a maybe. It is no longer a passing fascination. It is emotional attachment, emotional longing, and emotional recognition of your importance in their life. Here is judgment. So there is an awakening here. There is a realization. There is a point they are reaching where they can no longer be honest with themselves unless they admit what this has become. And if they spoke from the deepest truth in their heart, I feel like they would say, I fell much harder than I expected. I miss you much more than I show. And this has become love for me in a very serious way. Here is warmth in my heart for you. Yes, because underneath all of the overthinking, all of the hesitation, and all of the holding back, there is still tenderness and there is still real affection here. And that is why I feel their unspoken words are so heavy right now, because they are carrying something real, and the longer it stays inside, the more powerful it becomes. And I feel like they know your place in their heart is real now, deeply. Okay, so let us take a look at what is actually blocking this person, because I feel like that is the biggest issue here. It is not that they only want you physically. It is not that they do not care enough. The real issue is that the love has become deeper than they expected, and now it is bringing all of their fears, habits, and emotional defenses right up to the surface. We have the Four of Swords, the Eight of Pentacles, and avoidance. Yes, when this person starts feeling too much, I feel like they cope by going quiet, getting busy, or disappearing into routine and responsibilities. It is like they try to calm themselves by focusing on what they can control. And practical life is easier to control than a heart that has started falling in love in a way they did not plan for. Here is self-indulgence, focus on self-worth, time to heal, shadow work, and self-appreciation. So, yes, this person has become very self focused at times, but I do not feel that means you do not matter. I feel it means they are not handling their inner world very smoothly, and their instinct is to manage themselves alone rather than openly invite someone into the process. Here is the Four of Cups. So there is resistance here. They can feel the offer, feel the bond, and feel the emotional potential, but there is still hesitation around fully receiving it and responding with their whole heart. Because once they do that, this becomes very real. Then it is not just a feeling they carry privately, then it becomes a choice, a commitment, a movement, and a real act of vulnerability. Here is fear of rejection. Yes, I feel this strongly. For many of you, this person also worries that too much time has passed or that they may not know how to come back in a clean and honest way now. Maybe they feel they disappointed you. Maybe they know they created distance. Maybe they know their silence hurt you. And now they do not know if your heart would still receive them gently or not. Here's the Five of Swords. So they do have a defeated feeling around the situation at times, not because they do not care, but because they may think they already complicated something precious. And when someone starts thinking that way, it can make them even more passive because they begin telling themselves that maybe they already lost what they were afraid to hold properly in the first place. Here is timing. So, yes, I do feel timing has been part of the difficulty here as well. Maybe this came in while they were already overwhelmed, already wounded, already distracted, or simply not emotionally prepared. And sometimes love shows up before someone has grown into the courage required to receive it well. That does not make the feeling unreal. It just means the person has catching up to do within themselves. Here is the Devil. So there are patterns here: overthinking, fear, control, retreat, and maybe even attachment to emotional distance because it once felt safer than love. And I feel like those patterns are strong enough that they keep this person trapped in their head, even when their heart is clearly trying to move towards you and towards something more genuine. Here is the Queen of Cups. Wow. Your energy is exactly what softened them, and that is also part of why this has felt so destabilizing for them. You brought up tenderness in them. You brought up sweetness in them. You brought up the part of them that wanted to care more openly, and that was beautiful, but it also exposed where they were still afraid. Here's hidden tears. Yes, some of them are more emotional over this than they would ever admit. And I feel like what hurts is knowing that something so meaningful became tangled up in fear, silence, or delay. Here's the Tower. So, yes, this connection shook their usual way of coping. It shook their control. It shook the walls they normally keep around their heart. And they are still trying to find their footing after that. That is another reason for the overthinking. They are trying to mentally rebuild around a feeling that has already changed them. And no matter how much they try to act like they can just stay in routine, they cannot fully undo it. Here is the Ace of Pentacles. So I still feel potential for something real here, something grounded, something honest, something that can actually become tangible if they allow it. But to get there, they would have to move through fear, move through pride, move through delay, and stop treating their own feelings like a problem that has to be hidden away. And that is why the message here is not that they only want you on a surface level. It is that the depth has scared them and they are still learning how to be brave enough for what their heart already knows. And I feel like they know this asks more of them now. It asks honesty, courage, and movement. It asks them to stop hiding behind fear and actually meet what is already alive in their heart. Because this feeling keeps growing now still. Okay, so let us take a look at the near future energy here, because I do not feel this story ends with everything staying buried forever. I feel like something is trying to move. We have the Knight of Cups, Judgment, and Trust. Wow. So yes, there is emotional expression building here, and I feel like this person is getting closer to facing the truth of what they feel. For many of you, it is becoming harder for them to keep carrying this in silence because the feelings have grown. The longing has grown, and the recognition of what you mean to them has grown as well. And when something keeps growing in that way, eventually it starts pressing toward honesty, toward contact, toward confession, or at the very least toward some kind of real emotional acknowledgement. Here is communication, and here is the Page of Swords. So yes, I do feel watching first, thinking first, maybe even mentally drafting something many times before action happens. But communication is still strongly here. And if you have felt that this person has a lot they want to say, I would agree with that. The energy looks very full and it does not look finished at all. Here is the Sun. Beautiful. So I feel like clarity is coming. Things that have been hidden are not meant to stay hidden forever. And I also feel your own energy getting lighter from here, because no matter what happens with this person, I feel like you are meant to come back to joy, to confidence, and to a stronger sense of your own truth instead of staying trapped in endless uncertainty. Here is resurrection. Yes. Something is reviving or being realized more fully or being brought back around with more honesty. Now, for some of you, this can absolutely be reconnection. For others, it could simply be that the truth becomes more visible and the hidden love is no longer able to stay hidden in the same way. But either way, I do not feel emotional death here at all. Here is divine timing. So yes, I feel that timing matters, and I know that can be frustrating when feelings are real and you want movement now. But I also feel that both of you have been learning through the delay. For you, stronger self-value, stronger discernment, and stronger trust in your own intuition. For them, more honesty and more courage. Here is the Two of Cups. Wow. So the bond remains. I keep seeing that again and again. The feeling itself does not look one-sided to me. What looks uneven is the pace, the expression, and the level of emotional bravery, but not the actual connection. And that is a big difference because it means the heart of this is still alive. Here is the Six of Swords. So there is calmer energy ahead. I do feel the heaviness start shifting out of pure confusion and into something more understandable and more peaceful. Whether that peace comes through contact, truth, closure, or a new beginning will vary for each of you. But I do not feel this is meant to stay trapped in mixed signals and unspoken emotion forever. Here is the Star, beautiful hope, healing, restoration, and I feel like Spirit really wants you to know that what you felt from this person was not imagined. You were not imagining the softness. You were not imagining the pull. You were not imagining the emotional weight. What changed is that the attraction deepened into love, and now that love is hard for them to contain. Here is my life as an experiment. I embrace the exploration. I love this as advice for you because it says, do not let your whole life freeze while this person catches up to their heart. Keep living. Keep exploring, keep opening yourself to joy, beauty, inspiration, and all the things that remind you that your life is full, meaningful, and worthy of being lived right now. Here is the Queen of Wands. Yes, come back into your confidence, your magnetism, your warmth, your beauty, and your power. You do not have to chase proof that you matter deeply. The energy already shows that you did. And for many of you, the more you stand firmly in that truth, the more this situation reveals itself clearly because your light brings hidden things into view. Here is, I want to reach out to you and talk wow. And here is, I know I hurt you. Yes. So I do feel awareness growing here. Maybe not all at once, maybe not perfectly, but enough to show me that this person knows something serious happened in their heart and knows they cannot keep pretending it was only surface level attraction. So the overall message here is that this is not just attraction. This person is crazily in love with you now. That feeling has grown, it has stayed, and it has become emotionally undeniable. And I feel like what comes next is more truth, more clarity, more emotional reckoning, and for you, a stronger return to peace, value, and confidence while everything hidden starts moving closer to the light. And I feel like the truth of this is getting too strong to keep buried now. It wants light, it wants words, it wants movement. I feel like something is trying to move. We have the Knight of Cups, judgment, and trust. Wow. So yes, there is emotional expression building here, and I feel like this person is getting closer to facing the truth of what they feel. For many of you, it is becoming harder for them to keep carrying this in silence because the feelings have grown. The longing has grown, and the recognition of what you mean to them has grown as well. And when something keeps growing in that way, eventually it starts pressing toward honesty, toward contact, toward confession, or at the very least toward some kind of real emotional acknowledgement. Here is communication, and here is the Page of Swords. So yes, I do feel watching first, thinking first, maybe even mentally drafting something many times before action happens. But communication is still strongly here. And if you have felt that this person has a lot they want to say, I would agree with that. The energy looks very full and it does not look finished at all. Here is the Sun. Beautiful. So I feel like clarity is coming. Things that have been hidden are not meant to stay hidden forever. And I also feel your own energy getting lighter from here, because no matter what happens with this person, I feel like you are meant to come back to joy, to confidence, and to a stronger sense of your own truth instead of staying trapped in endless uncertainty. Here is resurrection. Yes. Something is reviving or being realized more fully or being brought back around with more honesty. Now, for some of you, this can absolutely be reconnection. For others, it could simply be that the truth becomes more visible and the hidden love is no longer able to stay hidden in the same way. But either way, I do not feel emotional death here at all. Here is divine timing. So yes, I feel that timing matters, and I know that can be frustrating when feelings are real and you want movement now. But I also feel that both of you have been learning through the delay. For you, stronger self-value, stronger discernment, and stronger trust in your own intuition. For them, more honesty and more courage. Here is the Two of Cups. Wow. So the bond remains. I keep seeing that again and again. The feeling itself does not look one-sided to me. What looks uneven is the pace, the expression, and the level of emotional bravery, but not the actual connection. And that is a big difference, because